A little background, a little context. Doug Armstrong joined the Blues 16 years ago in 2008. He worked under general manager Larry Plow for 2 years, and then he became GM in 2010. Since the day Doug walked in the door, he has put the Blues organization first in everything he has done, even when that, at the time, might be not be the best thing for Doug himself. I've seen this countless times since Doug and I started working together 12 years ago in 2012. So it wasn't surprising when early this year, Doug started making the case to me that it was time to start moving toward a new general manager. And it probably wasn't surprising to Doug that while I was open to moving to a new GM, I also wanted to make sure that the Blues organization would keep the man I considered the best manager in hockey. So that's the backdrop for today's announcements. So Alex Steen has signed a new 5-year contract with the Blues. For the next 2 years, Alex will work as special assistant to the general manager, Doug Armstrong. 2 years from now, following the 25-26 season, Alex will become the general manager of the St. Louis Blues. In addition, Doug's contract has been extended. It had 2 years remaining, and it has been extended an additional 3 years. Doug will serve the next 2 years as president of hockey operations and general manager, and then the following three years as president of hockey operations. As general manager, Alex will report to Doug as president for the 3 remaining years of both contracts. Doug and Alex will work very closely over the next 5 years, with Doug training, teaching, mentoring, developing Alex before Alex becomes GM and well after. Over time, Doug will hand over, delegate GM duties to Alex, with Alex ultimately taking on all GM responsibilities. We are beyond excited about naming Alex our future GM. We're excited about his intelligence, his work ethic, his knowledge of the game, feel for the game, his leadership abilities, his communication skills, the tremendous respect that players, coaches, and fans have for him, and importantly, his nonstop dedication to the Blues and the city of St. Louis. And we are confident that Alex is going to be an outstanding general manager. We're also very pleased that Doug, the longest tenured GM in Blues history, with the most wins in Blues history, and one of the most successful GMs in all of NHL history, that Doug will continue as president, not only to guide Alex, but to oversee all of hockey operations. Along with the rest of the 2019 team, Doug and Alex helped to bring the first Stanley Cup to this city and to this franchise, and we are confident that they are going to put us on that path once again.
Thank you. Thanks, Tom, for the kind words. And Alex, congratulations and welcome aboard. Just a little bit of history. Obviously, when Alexander retired, we stayed in touch over the last year. He's joined our staff in a variety of different ways, and I've been over to Europe on multiple occasions to meet with him, to talk to him, to travel with him, and it just became clearer and clearer that he had everything you need in a general manager except experience. And he and I have talked recently about moving back to St. Louis and taking a large role with our team. I think the easiest part for Alexander is going to be the competitive part, knowing what it takes to win, knowing what type of people you need to win. But I won't speak for him. I think he got his eyes wide open at our amateur meeting last week on things that go on behind the scenes. So for the next couple of years, it's going to be business as usual. Alexander will be with the team. He'll be out scouting with me. He'll be out scouting with our staff, and then he will take the reins. The reason that I went to Tom last year was that I try and start every decision with what's best for the Blues, and then I go down, and then the last question I ask myself is what's best for the Blues. And when I thought about staying on managing, I love managing. I could manage for at least another decade without any reservation. But the last question is that best for the Blues? And I really think that the time when I signed my 4-year extension, we were going to go through some difficult decisions with veteran players that I had the utmost respect for. We had to make decisions on players entering their prime, and I felt having an experienced hand at that point was going to be beneficial to the organization. And that 4 years extension, I think, is going to get us through that. And I think at that point, I love the Blues, and I want to do what's best for the Blues. And at that point, I think it's going to be best for someone with vision that can look past 5 or 6 years, can look 15 years into the future, can have that staying power to be here for a long time, to build not one more championship team, but Alexander's goal is to build multiple more championship teams. How it affects the next 2 years, I think, is very important. I called our leadership group last night, our captains, and I said, we've been honest that we have a plan. We have a vision on the ice, and now this is a vision off the ice. But the vision on the ice for today's players isn't about when he takes over as managers. It's about what we do this year in training camp. And I told our leadership group that I have a plan. Their job is to disrupt my plan. Their job is to put ourselves in a situation next February where we win that game that we lost last year and propels us into a spot where they've lobbed the ball to myself and our staff that you need to improve our team. We've shown you that we're capable to make a push. And that's their job responsibility. We're consistent. We're building through the draft. We did last year. We have multiple picks this year. But if our players can step up and do the job that I know they can do, we want hard decisions. We want to have to maybe give an asset we don't want to give to support a team that's pushing for the playoffs and pushing for not just making the playoffs, but having success. So that, in a nutshell, is, I think the long-term vision for this franchise is under Alex, but the short term is under myself with Alex learning. And we're excited about the next 2 years. I'm excited that Tom believes that I can provide some leadership to Alex and teach him some of the tricks of the trade that I have learned over my almost 20 years as a manager, and get him set up. And as I said, it's going to be the things away from the cameras that are the ones that he's going to pick up quickly, but nothing teaches experience like experience. And so that's what we're going to do over the next 24 months to get him ready, and then we're going to be here to make sure that he has great success. So with that, Steiner, congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks. Thanks, Tom. Thanks for the kind words. I want to thank Tom and the ownership group, as well as Doug, for the opportunity. I want to thank my family, who continue to show me support going through this new part of my career. Incredibly excited to officially be moving back now to St. Louis with this announcement today. I first came here in 2008, and within a couple days felt so welcomed by the city and the people, and it obviously holds a special place in my heart. I remember that, I think it was the next day, it was around Thanksgiving, I was invited to Manny Legacy's house for Thanksgiving, and it's something I always remember. I grew up here as a player and as a man, and I really experienced some of the greatest days in my hockey career right here, and memories that I think about often, and yesterday was a great example of that as well. This last year I've had the opportunity to work under Tim Taylor with the development staff, and Tim's been great for me, has helped me a lot. Ryan Miller, the same, always around, supportive. Peter Chiarelli, Scott Mellenby, Al McInnes, everybody's been so welcoming, and all of the staff, I feel like I'm surrounded by just great people. And for me, going into this, to be able to work side by side with someone that I've had a relationship for over 15 years now, someone that pushed me as much as he did when I was playing, to know and expect how he's going to push me in this part. And, I've so much admiration for what he's done for not just the city and the team, but for myself. And again, thank you, Doug, Tom, and I'm looking forward to getting going here.
We'll open up for questions now. Raise your hand. We've got mics on both sides. We'll bring it to you. Start with Andy here. Austin.
Steener, congratulations. You grew up around the game. You played over 1,000 games in the NHL, and you've gotten a ton of experience in the game of hockey. What's the next step in terms of experience you want to gain to, make sure you're prepared to run an NHL team?
Well, I think what Doug mentioned there, like, there's only one way of getting the experience, and that's going through it. It's nothing that can be rushed. I think the one thing I've learned, growing up around the rinks with my father and obviously playing a long time, is that you have to have patience with certain things and soak up as much information as you can. And that's something that I'm trying to be as attentive and humble to the task as well. I know I have lots to grow in, but like I said, I'm surrounded by great people, and that's what you want to work with. It's the character of the people, and I'm just really excited right now.
Doug, Jeremy, you touched on this earlier, but if you could go into a little more detail. You know exactly what it takes to be a general manager in this league. You've known him for a long time. What are the characteristics? Why do you believe that he has what it takes to be a strong GM?
Well, I go back to his value system, and his value system has always been related around the team. What's best for the team? Not what was best for him. He came in as a scoring player, a player that touched the offensive side of the game, and then all aspects of the game. And as our team evolved and as he matured and has father time caught up a little bit, he was willing not only to accept a different role on our team, but to embrace it. He understood that for the collective to have success, he had to give stuff, and that takes a special person. I think everyone wants to have success, but it's what are you willing to give up of your own for the betterment of the team, and there was no one greater than that. I go back to a story that we met after a disappointing season and traded one of his better friends, or maybe his best friend, and Paul Stastny, and we were at Starbucks, my favorite meeting spot with the guys, and he just said, like, we need to win. Like, I don't want to, if we're moving players for picks, I don't, I want to win. And I said, can you just give me a little bit of time? I'll prove to you that we want to win. And then we traded for Shannon. We brought in O'Reilly. We brought in those guys. And when you do that, you never know how it's going to end. And it ended with a championship. And when I look back at those are days that I remember more than the game itself. It's the desire that he had to be part of a winning organization, the willing he was to commit. And you need to do that, as I said in my initial remarks. Start with what's best for the Blues and end with what's best for the Blues. And if you can't answer that question, that this is best for Blues, you don't do it. I talked to Tom, and selfishly, there was some selfish reasons for me to stay on as a manager, potentially get to 1,000 wins. There's things that selfishly I wanted to accomplish, but my selfishness or what I want to do was always outweighed what's best for the St. Louis Blues and its fans and its ownership. And I think Tom told me this earlier. We're nothing more than stewards of the team. The team is here now. It's going to be here long after I'm gone, and my job is to continue to do what's best for the Blues. And I know that Steener shares those values. He's always, and when I told some of the players, like he actually does bleed blue, and to have that in our organization, the players feed off it. They fed off it when he played. They fed off it when he came back to training camp last year. They fed off it when he traveled with the team. They know that it's not just a job. It's a passion, and St. Louis is a passion. I'm not sure he signs up for it. I'm not sure his wife signs up for it, if this is any one of the other 31 teams. He's a Blue and he wants to be a Blue. And when you start with that passion, that's the part. And then his hockey knowledge is it's second to none. I go back to that's going to be the easy part, is assessing what we need and how we do it. It's the things behind the curtain that aren't sexy that managers do that we're going to make sure he's up to speed on. But he starts with the number one ingredient is knowledge, passion, and then you just add in the love of St. Louis. This is a no-brainer.
Alex, just what made you want to go into the management route after you finished playing?
Yeah, it was something that we discussed early. Something I've always been interested in. It was, right when I retired, that was a little heartbreaking for me. It's the one thing I've always done and known, and couldn't keep going. And then there was some other aspects to my life, some family matters that I needed to tend to, and there was a pandemic going on, and there was just a lot going on. So it's something that I've always been interested in. I've talked to people around me about it, and try to inform myself as much as possible. It's difficult to know exactly what it entails when you're active as a player. You kind of end up in your own bubble as a player, and there's a lot to learn and information to gather. But like what Doug mentioned there, like I've always had a passion for St. Louis, and my passion for the sport is so high. Like this is what I was meant to do, was be around hockey, and it just kind of grew more and more. And then obviously been in close contact with Doug for a while now, and feel like this is a great opportunity for me.
Tom, you've had hundreds of players come through the doors, since 2008, 10, when you took over in 2012. I know you have a lot of respect for Alex over the years. You've mentioned that to me. What specifically strikes you about him and his hockey mind, and kind of what Doug talked about, his passion?
I guess not to be too repetitive here, but it is putting the team first. I mean, that's what happened in, the second half of the 2018-2019 season, when everybody put their personal stats and their personal records aside and came together. And, Alex was a big part of that. So it is that team first attitude and the passion, but it goes well beyond that. This is an assessment of looking at a person who's very intelligent, has just off the charts work ethic, has just innate leadership abilities and communication skills and just appeal to people, and has this really strong desire to learn and take in, and so this is not a job that's for everybody who plays the game. We just see Alex as just kind of a natural and an extraordinary candidate.
Alex, it's been about a year since you started working with the Blues on the prospect side, development side. What have you learned in that past year that can kind of help you with this job moving forward?
Well, plenty. Like I said, I've had been involved in a lot of meetings and gotten to know the whole staff, but also with the prospects, it's been great working with them. And, I feel like I have a good sense of the modern player, but, really working with them, and they've all been great as well. It's a fantastic group of prospects that we have, and, the future looks really bright that way. The guys are putting in everything they have towards getting up and contributing towards the organization. So it's been a really great year. I've been allowed to partake in a lot of different areas, and like I said, I've had a strong strong support around me as well.
Doug, you've got GMs in the league that manage into their 70s, some into their 80s. Is it difficult for you to know a few years down the road that you're going to slide over and somebody's going to be working under you? And how did you come to that conclusion that you'll be ready for that 2 years from now?
Yeah, Andy, I just, in 2 years it'll be 16 years. A generation of players, a generation, maybe 2 generations of fans have known nothing different. And, at some point, change is good. Change is good, I think, when Tom and I talked about it. It's not just for the players, it's for the business side, it's for everybody. They've got in one rhythm with one manager for a number of years. And as I said, I love to manage. I'm going to miss it. I guarantee I'm going to miss it. I love the work. But I love the Blues more, and it's my responsibility to do what's best for the Blues, and what's best for the Blues is to support Alex in 2 years. But that's 24 months. I got a hell of a lot of work in the 24 months I'm going to accomplish.
Tom, can you speak to the importance of a gradual transition? I mean, that's not always gifted to every team in any sport, but I mean, we see teams flipping front offices oftentimes in an off season, which is challenging. How will this help continue, competition and keep moving this thing in the right direction without spikes?
Yeah, it's interesting. We've talked a lot about this in just about every line of business or any big enterprise in our country. The organization has a succession plan, especially for the top people, and it's well thought out. It's all in place, and yet in sports, it's kind of seen as, something unusual, and that just doesn't make sense to me or to us. We want to be, thinking not just about the next game and not about this season, but what comes next, and if we want X to come next, what do we have to do now to put that in motion? So we just think that's prudent planning, so that as we go forward, we know what we're doing. We're prepared for it. We're kind of aligning ourselves, and because we're an operation that's very much in the public eye, I think it's a positive to tell our supporters what we're doing. Obviously there are things we have to be quiet about, trades and things, but just, broadly, this is our plan, this is where we're going, and give people some confidence that, we know what we're doing, and, we're set for not just next year, but well beyond.
If I could ask one for Alex, that final year we talked about, and we saw that your role changed, how it kind of inspired your teammates and became a big part of that story. Did that teach you anything that you will use as you've changed these gears? And take us back to that kind of accepting that and embracing that for the betterment of the team and the time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It wasn't, I think it's made out to be a bigger thing outside of what I felt it was at the time. I thought that whole season we knew we were a good team. We were just trying to figure out, where everything fit in, and kind of needed some time to get in sync. I don't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure from the start of that season to the start the year before, we had a lot of changes in the lineup, and there was a lot of things. I think I wouldn't say specific. Winning that year really taught me a lot. I learned a lot from that. I felt like that gave me a lot of answers to questions I had years prior. But I also thought that there was a lot of years we were really good, and we had built something for a long time. And in the end, we were able to, it wasn't just, I know that gets talked about a lot. It was not just me doing that. There was a lot of things that happened, a lot of guys that sacrificed and really did what it took for us to win that year. But I do know there was a lot of work put in before by previous players and coaches and staff, and that that kind of all came out in that year. But it was a special one, that's for sure.
Doug, what made you want to stick around as president of Hockey Ops after the next 2 years, and how do you envision your involvement changing during that time?
Yeah, again, it's my love for the Blues. It's, you know, my respect for Mr. Stillman and what he's given me, what he's given my family. I just didn't envision myself starting over again somewhere else at that age of my life. I think there's an excitement too. If we had have brought in a manager with 1,000 games experience, quite honestly, he might not need me, you know. But I think there's things I can provide Alex as he's learning. I do view it as a weighted scale that over time I'll become less and less relevant in his decision making because he's going to gain that experience. But I owe it to myself. I owe it to the fans. I owe it to give him guidance. I call it landmines. Like he doesn't know where they are, and I want to say it's there. And I say, and the quickest way is through the landmine from A to B. Now, the field. Now you got to decide if you want to take that route or go around. Because when you step on them, they usually don't work out very well. And what I want to do is I just want to tell him what's around the corner. And over time, he's going to know that on his own. So that's why I'm sticking around, is because I owe it. I feel I owe it to players of yesterday, players of today, and players of tomorrow to make sure that when they're winning championships, it's because they're ready and Alex is ready. And I'm hoping to win one next year. This isn't about. I want to make sure that we're not throwing that. We're not saying that next season's not an important year. I look at Vancouver. They were coming off of a year before they weren't really sure, and then they go on a run. I look at Winnipeg. I look at Nashville, and anything can happen. But why I want to stick around is to help Alex, help the franchise, make sure that they're ready to win a lot and have that 8, 9, 10, 12-year run at the top of the league and hope that one day you get through.
Alex, along those lines, Doug's known for a lot of things, one of them making decisions without bringing emotion into it. I mean, we could go on and on. What are some things that you specifically hope will rub off on you in the next couple of years watching him work?
Specific lessons from?
Yeah, just things that you'll see him do on a daily basis and pick up on.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, like I've found I'm as attentive as possible throughout the meetings, and Doug and I have spoken a few times after the meetings just to go through kind of where the thought process was before and after, and kind of things for myself to evaluate and think about. And so I think obviously the experience is one part of it, but I have so much respect for Doug's work ethic and how hard he works and how hard the whole staff works, and it's interesting for me to see the thought process, but then also to understand where all that came from. Does that make sense?
Alex, different managers around the league have different styles. Some prefer the draft and patience. Some prefer aggressive trades. How do you envision your management and roster building style?
Well, going back to Doug's point, like I like to be present. Right now, I want us to start focusing on training camp for this year. And I think as time evolves and the more I learn and Doug and I have our conversations, that will, but I believe in the plan that we have started here now, that Doug and his staff and the future of the team and the organization. So, yeah, that's where I am.
I just want to add something here. The press release went out. There's an important part of that press release is Tim Taylor is becoming assistant manager with Ryan Miller. Ryan and Tim are. I don't make a decision without consulting those two guys. They're brilliant in their areas. This is a promotion for Tim that's long overdue. It sets us up moving forward, and so I just wanted to make sure that Tim gets his recognition today, along with Alex, two of very important people that are going to move this franchise ahead with Ryan and the whole staff.
Doug, I know we're talking a lot about the future, right? The next couple years, how that's all going to work out, but the draft's coming up here in a little bit. What's that involvement as bringing him on and kind of working him through that process as you've probably been thinking about it for a while?
Yeah, I would say, quite honestly, it's a learning process for Alex right now. He listens to the meetings. He has good questions, but what he doesn't have is the depth when we say, okay, how does this compare to that player from a year ago or 2 years ago, or what players have success, and those are the things he's going to learn. It's the day-to-day trade stuff that he has a better impact on. There's a number of players that he knows from his playing days on this, in this organization or around the league that he can help us with. But again, it's a learning process for him immediately, and as I said, he's like, I feel he's drinking through a fire hose right now, from whether it's player development to drafting to free agency to budgeting to, there's a whole host of things. We have contracts that we have to sign, and like we do with a contractor doing this with a franchise. You have a 1, 3, 5 year plan, and we're rolling it out on all different areas.
Steener, can you just talk about what you've been doing the last couple of years with the organization and just what that experience has been like for you? And just, I'm curious, the transition going from a player to management, like how eye-opening that is in terms of what really goes on behind the scenes running a team.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, it's different. I was fortunate my father played before I played, and then he was scouting and on the other side, on the management side, for a few years. And so I've always had him to lean on and ask questions. So I had maybe a better understanding than everyone else, or than other players that are active at the time. But it is difficult. Like, you are in such a bubble when you're active that you don't really, you meet a lot of people around the organization and you know who they are, but how everything works and is run, and they vary from organization to organization. So it's been a great learning experience for me, and I've, like, every call or the interviews and the combine and everything this past week, being able to spend time with the staff and seeing how the morale and how connected everybody is, and that's been I gotta say one of the cooler experiences.
All right, no final questions. The gentlemen will stay around if any follow-ups, kind of scrum for a minute here while we set up for some one-on-one TVs, but conclude here.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay.